And welcome to the
Welcome.
Rave podcast. We're here to look at week three or week four, I guess, of the Springboks July Test series, the conclusion of the New Zealand France series, and the start of the Australia versus British and Irish Lions Test series as well. And we have a new Rugby World Cup qualifier from Southern Africa joining us in Australia in 2027. I am Thala. I'm joined by Shaun today. Shaun, sort of the last week of July rugby, but I mean it went well. I didn't even mention the fact that we have a new junior world champion and the baby Boks have finished their 13-year drought.
Yeah, no, it was a very interesting final, and I can't wait to chat about that. But I know we have a whole bunch of stuff to talk before. And what's very weird, and I know I'm jumping ahead though, is like we really only have one major game coming up this weekend
Yeah.
and a little bit of Curry Cup. So it's a bit strange, but yeah, from going from having games at like from 5 a.m. until 1 a.m. the next morning to just having one game is a bit weird.
Let's start with an early rant because there is another major game that's happening this weekend in South Africa, and that's the women's box against the Black Ferns, happening in Athlone in Cape Town at 5 o'clock. But I noticed that the Curry Cup game for Western Province also at the same time in Cape Town. Like,
Oh,
guys, come on. Like,
seriously.
yeah, so I hope it's being moved. I hope someone did realize now, but at least according to all the apps right now, it's Province, I think, against the Sharks at 5 o'clock in Cape Town Stadium. And then number one, the women's box team gets the smaller stadium. And number two, they're playing literally at the same time in the same town with Province playing.
No, that's silly. Silly, but they to one thing, so apart from that, which I've obviously only found out now, but there's quite a nice little vibe in South Africa about the Curry Cup,
Hmm.
which I haven't felt in a while. Like, I think everyone's excited about the Bull squad a little bit. I think it's just because it's post Jake White um, vibes. And then there's a lot of the under 20s that are in some other Curry Cup squads or most of the Curry Cup squads. So I just think like that's the vibe. The vibe seems quite nice. And I think everyone's like, cool, this is the Curry Cup and it's ours and it's the oldest sort of cup competition in the world. But then we have the rugby championship. So we're kind of playing on two spaces, but the vibe is there for the Curry Cup.
Yeah, look, as long as people realize now that the Curry Cup is now going to be more of a youngsters like backups in the URC semi-pro competition and everyone accepts that, I think we're fine. It's just now when people are like, well, in 2004, Rassie Erasmus and Ollie Leroux are playing in the final against Meyer Bos or whatever, like those days are over. But yeah, I think if we accept it for what it is, I think we can have a lot of fun with it. And yeah, like South Africans are not going to say no to more rugby.
Exactly. And I think the most important thing is that we just keep it alive. It needs to be relevant, but we mustn't kind of lose it in this landscape, because I think it could easily be dropped or really fizzle out badly. We're in a bit of a weird space where our winter is not really our primary rugby time because
Yeah.
of the URC, but we still kind of need it. So if we repurpose the Curry Cup a little bit, and then we don't have 1,000 other half-assed competitions, we'll be in a good place.
Mm. So yeah, lots
Sorry.
to look forward to. And hopefully someone by the end of this week moves those it's Western Province against the Bulls, I just double checked. But yeah, one of those games needs to be moved so that fans can actually watch both because the Black Ferns have, I mean, it's a month or so before the World Cup. So the Black Ferns have a first strength squad here. I don't think we play the Black Ferns that often, and obviously there's a big disparity in strength, but it's going to be a good opportunity for the women's team to test themselves. So let's hope someone gets a good idea and moves some of these games around. Um,
Yeah, like I'm super pumped at our approach to the World Cup for the women's side. We hosted Canada for 2 games. We're
yeah,
hosting the Black Ferns for 2 games. There's a very, very clear move towards us making the quarterfinals, which I think would be incredible. There's a good vibe. Like everything seems to be pulling in the same direction, even though they're pulling slightly apart, whether it's the under 20s or the women's or the Springboks or whatever. We seem to be going in the right and the same direction with the same vibes.
Yeah. Look, I mean, you can't ask for more in terms of preparation than facing two of the top three sides in the world. Probably, actually, no, two of the top two. No, two of the top three. Sorry. Forgot about England for a second. So you getting this is going to be great because once we face, France and Brazil, we're more than prepared. And, we're integrating players. I think we talked about it last few weeks about Swace trying a few things and moving players like Nadine Roos now to scrum off and stuff like that. So we'll see what
I'm not a
works.
fan, eh? I watched bits of that game. Like, she didn't play badly. I just really feel if
It's always,
we are going to use the best of what she has to offer, I don't think it's at 9.
yeah, I see the vision, but I think you're right.
Yes.
Probably should be used somewhere else. So yeah, I mean, the Black Ferns are, the creme de la creme in terms of women's rugby. So that's going to be a very good test for the women's box team. Shaun, we're going to do some things a bit different. We are kind of waiting to hear if we have an email from Rassie once during the recording of this podcast about the rugby championship squad for the Springboks. So we're going to start with the British and Irish Lions. I mean, that was still probably the biggest match of the weekend nonetheless, and we'll come to the Boks a bit later. So the Lions win 27 points to 19 against the Wallabies. Shaun, I actually found myself, I don't know how many people would have watched the game like this, but I was flying back from South Africa to Italy, and my stopover was in Amsterdam, basically in Saturday afternoon. So I found myself watching this game in an Irish pub in Amsterdam. And yeah, I guess a few British and Irish expats were in the bar as well. And vibes were actually quite nice. I mean, there's quite a bit of keenness. Everyone seemed like everyone's obviously quite keen about the Lions, even if they're not like the biggest rugby fans. Like there were some questions, like sort of basic questions about who's this player, what's the Lions, all that sort of stuff. But they seem to be still keen. And unfortunately, I guess in terms of the game, it didn't really work out in terms of being a spectacle because, I mean, look, apart from like the last 20 minutes, it seemed like the Lions had this game well under control.
Yeah. I I can't help but just look at this performance and go, if you had one more test match together, if you had one more game together as a team, the Wallabies would have been in a different place. Um, the Lions, as well prepared as they haven't really been pushed. There's been a lot of rotation. There's been a lot of blowout games. There was an opportunity there. Like you'll never get that first test back. I think Joe Schmidt, like that, it's really difficult to come from 1-0 down to go on and win.
Mm.
Especially because the Lions will be able to prepare and work on their shortcomings. And the Lions did fade, and the Wallabies just looked disjointed. And it's frustrating because this is the Lions tour. We're South African, like we've got no skin in the game, but we know what it means to host the Lions. We know what it means to beat them. Like it's really up there. And because of the amount of European rugby we follow and we watch, and with the Premiership or the URC, whatever, we also know how much it means for them. And the Lions have also then probably taken their strongest squad that we've seen in a while. Like there are guys being protected that could play in the 23. There's countless arguments specifically about open side flanker that you're where you could fit 3 guys easy. Like there's so much happening. And I just think the Wallabies, I feel let down like by the way that it came about, because I really feel that there was an opportunity to push it further. Like if you pressurize the Lions, you can see them buckle. You can see if there's a problem at the seam, and I'm just frustrated by it. It was a superb effort. No one gave the Wallabies a chance, but hell, man, they lost by 8 points. It's pretty good under the circumstances pre-game. In the game, I think they'll just have been disappointed. Like you can't help but feel after the game they were in the changing room just going, we could have done better. And you don't ever want to end a test match like that. You don't ever want to lose a game and be like, we could have done better.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it's a good point being raised about the preparation. And just another game I think would have helped the Wallabies a lot. If they played even like a Samoa or a Tonga or just a team, maybe not obviously at the best level, but just another game, especially with the loss of Lolasio after the game against Fiji, just another game just to be like, okay, Tom Liner, let's see if we can trust you at number 10. Let's see how it works. And it just obviously also they didn't have all of their players back for the Fiji game. So it just seemed like the team that was in red was the team that's been together for a few years, and the team in yellow was the team that is the invitational team that met each other a few weeks ago, and that's not supposed to be the case. So it did make things like that first half. There were just a few things where you just were like, okay, timing is just off. Like,
Yeah.
horses are not finding people. It seemed like in defense sometimes for some of the tries or the line breaks, one person's rushing, one person's hanging back, they don't not sure what's happening. Lineouts were just a mess, frankly. And obviously Tom Curry gets a lineout steal and that creates a try at the start of the second half. Yeah, but yeah, I think on the other hand, look, the Lions, I don't think their game plan was really that sophisticated, but they just said, okay, Tom Curry, Tyburn, you've read all the tweets, you've read all the articles, bash some people. That's what they did. And they were really physical, they're really strong. I think apart from the scrum, everything went really well. And then their backline, the 10, 12, 13, the Scottish 10, 12, 13 obviously had a lot of cohesion and they were able to take those opportunities. So they played really well.
Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if there was a change in the midfield this week.
Mm,
I think Jones was a little bit wasteful. There were there were clearly two tries that could have been scored if he had passed.
yeah.
There's no doubt that he's a better attacker than he is defender. I thought he's pretty decent on defense. I just don't think. Firstly, so this is my thing. Like, it's a little bit broader than just Jones or Huey Pilotu. The Lions lost a lot of impetus in the second half. I really feel a 6-2 bench would suit them better just for what they want. I think they've got the backs, they've got the coverage in the backs if they need to move guys out of position for injury. I think they're fine there. The problem is a Bundy Aki, he really makes 3 to 7 meters every carry, like up the guts, and that's platform and that's front foot ball, and that allows you to be fast in the to have quick ruck ball and sort of keep the tempo up. That's kind of what they've lost out on, I believe, in the second half. So they've got options. I still think we're going to see Aki Tuipulotu in a test match in the midfield as a unit. Um, but I just think they're great to start. They're great in open play. But if you really need to manufacture something, they're probably not the best because they really capitalize that midfield I'm talking about with a little bit of broken open play. And where Andy Farrell and Ireland, like we've seen, if they really like to truck it up in the forwards and keep it going. That's why I think a 6-2 would work for them if they can keep that tempo up. That's why Tuipulotu and Jones did so well in the first half. Like they dominated because the forwards were cooking. There was fast ball and there was unstructured defense, and that's when Huey Pilotu are elite. It's when they need to manufacture it, a la Bundy Aki, Damien Delendi, where they really need to run that unders line. They need to suck in three defenders and make 5 meters, and then you send the ball wide, and Ringrose is either crashing it up or Ringrose is then linking. Like a Kinghorn would be a good option in that, but after today's game, Kinghorn throwing all those intercept passes, I don't know. Like he runs onto the ball really well, but all of a sudden now he's an intercept liability, which we've never seen before. So I wouldn't be surprised if there was a change in the midfield. But I think the 6-2, I really think that would suit the Lions best. But all of that aside, Byrne and Curry were off the charts good. And that just helped Conan do his thing. Itoje was really good. it's like clockwork, eh? When you have like an open side and a blind side flanker doing really well, if your whole loose trio is doing really well, like your locks are not always going to dominate, but they're going to do a lot of very important stuff. But it's like clockwork, the two flankers play well, and then everyone's like, "Oh, Murray Toje is a passenger," and I was like, "What the hell? Have you not? Did you not watch the game?" Um, so yeah, it was okay. The Lions need to get over that hump of putting their foot on their throat and then keeping it there, because there's a lot of games where they've dominated and fallen off at the end. Even though they've scored a lot of points in the second half against non-test sides, um, the test side pushing them for 80 minutes is the space that they are the most vulnerable at because they don't know how to manage their momentum. 6-2 bench, more structured subs, more a case of bringing on two or three subs that have a very, very clear plan. If you can execute it, like if it's not for an injury or something, would probably suit the Lions better than anything else.
Yeah. I wonder if maybe we're just reading a bit too much on the Lions' performance the second half. I think there was also just a case of they knew the game was pretty much won. They could throw on some subs a bit earlier, even, I mean, somewhat also like there was interruptions with, McCarthy and Curry. It seemed like they had a few knocks, and they were just like, look, just we're gonna put the car on neutral. We're gonna just get home. I mean, I'm sure Andy Farrell and Simon Easterby aren't happy with conceding the tries, but at least they're like, look, we'll throw people early. We'll throw Smith at far off. We'll get our key in the midfield. We'll get the forwards in, and just so that Russell isn't playing 80 minutes and these players aren't playing a full 80 minutes. So yeah, I mean, it's still something that the Wallabies can build on to go, look, if we do get into the right areas, if we do keep the ball and we are getting big carries from our best players, then there is something there. I think on the other side, though, for the Wallabies, yes, I think Schmidt made a big mistake not picking out and possibly even someone like Tanyela Tupou just in the full props, just for someone that can help with the ball carrying if there is, well, because there was no Valentini, because there was no Skelton. It just felt like as soon as him and Pollard were on, Billy Pollard, like they just seemed a bit more impetus and people getting past the advantage line. Whereas in the first half, there was that phase, I think, in the 25th minute where the Wallabies had an attack and they were close to the Lions 22 and they went for like 10, 12 phases and they got 0 meters from it. And I think Curry just had felt like Curry had 6 dominant hits and Byrne at the other 4. So I think for the Wallabies, obviously they're the ones that need to now make the play. Like you can't, it's kind of like if we use a cricket term, they're the ones that need to sort of, use the power play and get the big runs in the first 10 overs instead of waiting and sort of playing the patient game. So you do wonder if like the likes of like a Bell who you want to be a finisher should start, if a McDermott who you want to be a finisher should start, just so that they can at least show something and hopefully put the Lions under pressure. Because like you were saying, Shaun, like there's an opportunity. This is still a team that hasn't been together for a while. So if they're now the ones that are 10 points behind, that's a lot of figuring out to do. And that's a lot of, who should be here, who should do what. Maybe I should try to be the hero, or maybe I should pass, or maybe I should kick. So that's when you can put the Lions under pressure. So yeah, I think for the Wallabies, that's sort of where they lost impetus because it didn't feel like an attack they were getting any meters. They weren't really using Ikita and Suali'i well. I don't think they did any contestable kicks until Jorgensen ripped the ball from Keenan, and you're like, well, do that more. And then once they sort of started going, and once the game was pretty much lost in the second half, they started building some momentum. So I think for the Wallabies, that's the question now of how can we start the game like we finished it?
There's two issues here. Like you've picked up the one, or you highlighted the one with the Wallabies. They were not able to use their midfield. Their midfield is the most dangerous part of the Wallaby backline and probably the whole Wallaby team at the moment. That is the pressure point. That is the space that they could have created more. They didn't give Suali'i enough ball in hand. Ikitau didn't have enough. You could go as far as saying that the Huey Pilotu midfield in front of them is the weakest defensively compared to the other one. I'm not saying that they're poor. I'm just saying they of the two midfields that the Lions will be fielding, they are the weakest defensively. There was opportunity there. A lot of times guys are looking around, someone's overrun a ball carrier. Like listen, it pissed me off. Like, you don't want to be doing that in game one. You don't get that back. The other thing is, going back to the Lions, maybe Farrell hasn't quite nailed how he wants to work his pack, his halfback pairing, and his midfield pairing. Like, he maybe what's happening this little bit disjointed is he's maybe square pegging round holes a little bit. And now he's got the luxury to play because he's got a test win in the bag. So like it seems like they also struggled a little bit to get going and doing some stuff. But like people, it's working in pockets, but it's not working as a team, perhaps. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. Like the Wallabies, man, I just feel dirty afterwards. Like I'm so irritated. Like I quite like the Wallabies. They're up there too close to being my second side. Like I don't have a problem with them. I'd support them over England, because that's how South Africans are. You hate one more than the other. So I just wanted more from them, and it's a freaking Lions tour, man. What could be better than pushing this Lions tour to the third test? There's still an opportunity, yes, but I'm frustrated.
Okay, so I guess the question is, how do the Wallabies fix all of this? So obviously, Valentini needs to be in the team. So I'm assuming he starts at 6. I mean, I thought, we were talking about it on the group. I thought Nick Champion de Crespin was fine actually. Like, I don't know if he is the answer, but I think it makes more sense playing him at 6 and Valentini at 8 and having Wilson come on as like an impact player. But I don't think they'll do that because Wilson's the captain. I don't know why. I mean, I'm probably in the minority. I think Wilson's a bit overrated, but that's a conversation for another day. But yeah, Valentini needs to be in the team. It seems like even from what Ronagara is talking about this, that Will Skelton, he's not someone you can just throw onto a game and he'll play 10 out of 10 first game. It's a big engine and needs a bit of time to rev up. So
the diesel engine, man.
yeah. So I don't even know. Do you even play Skelton? I don't even know. And then, so that's the one question, Sean. And then the other question is backline. Does Linus stay at 10? Does Swali stay at 13? What do you do there?
Champion de Crespigny, I can't pronounce him. I apologize.
Me too.
He's caused a lot of problems within the Wallabies with his game on Saturday. Because while he wasn't a classic flanker impact where there was a whole bunch of stuff happening around him, he held up his end on the defensive line and he was just tackling everything and everyone. Like you can look at him and you can't say, listen, he was shit dropping. You can't do that. So there's a very, very interesting conversation that's going to be happening now. Valentini has to play though. I think that is something that is very clear. And I would play Will Skelton in a heartbeat. But and that is because we know that he's a Warwick Galant. He takes a while to get back in the mix, but when he's in the mix, you can rely on him. You don't even need to worry about him because he's there and he's dominating. So another test match for the Wallabies before the series kind of changes things, but I'll stop harping on that. So maybe you play both Valentini and Skelton off the bench because you can say to the pack that started, listen, you guys did so well. Can you do that again? But can you condense that into 50 minutes for us? Like, just stay in the game. Make the Lions worry, and then we'll bring on Skelton and Valentini. I don't know. Don't know how you're going to package it. I suppose it comes with fitness and all that. With regards to the back line. I I don't think you can drop Liner. I don't know if Donald's did Liner play that badly? I don't
I don't
know.
think so.
I don't think so either. Like I
Yeah.
don't think he cooked, but I didn't look at him and go, yeah, this kid's out of his depth, you know? So perhaps you keep that the same. I would look at this nine conversation is probably the biggest of the lot, but I'll go with the rest of the backs. I would keep the midfield, the 10, 12, 13. I'd keep the same. I'd keep Wright at 15. We spoke about the midfield not being involved. Tom Wright wasn't involved enough. Like I want I want a positive possession from a Wright and a Suali. Like you want it in space or as a line break opportunity or a 2-on-1, that kind of positive handling. You need that. You don't need the guy to get a ball in traffic, and that's not where they cook, you know. Um, the backs, I don't know. The wingers. I'm not sure if we're going to keep them. I don't know what other options there were, but perhaps you need to work on a game plan that better suits them because they're not that bad, but they didn't. No one got any ball to give to them,
Yeah. Do you put
so
Swali on the wing?
I wouldn't. I wouldn't.
Yeah.
Um,
I just feel like his big super strength in rugby union is obviously his work under the high ball. And they tried one chip, it was a bit too far from liner. It didn't seem like they really like were going like, hey, like what they did against England last year of just putting opportunities for Swali to jump one-on-one against someone. He'll probably outjump someone like we saw Falau do when he came from rugby league. So that's why I'm like maybe putting him on the wing means there's more opportunities for those cross kicks. But I mean,
but you can do that in game
yes,
if you're
that's the thing.
attacking, you can move him out wide. I just don't think that he's best suited there permanently. Like I don't think he's best suited to be there as a winger. Um, you've got to do more. It really hinges on the nine.
Yeah,
Like Gordon's kicking has to be a little bit better
yeah,
because it was clearly there to kick. I'm very I'm having such a tough time because I quite like Gordon and I like White and I don't like McDermott. Except McDermott is definitely the best nine in the Wallaby setup right now. So he kind of has to play. Like I need to get over it. However, you have to have two nines, and I'm torn between Gordon and White. I I've seen I think White can start and McDermott come off the bench, but if you're starting McDermott, you probably want to have White coming off the bench. However, I do feel Gordon could offer um, something quite positive as a bench nine because they do have two very different roles. Very seldom will you do your containing forward dominated game with your second scrum half towards the end of the game. You'd want to be opening it up. I think Gordon can add value there. But you know, will McDermott add value starting? I don't know. It's these are the kind of questions. I'm sorry, but these are the kind of questions that you could answer literally with one extra game.
yeah. I think Gordon was just the worst option for Liner because either you have his club teammate with him, and obviously McDermott and Liner play together for the Reds, or you have the most experienced nine, who's also obviously a good tactical kicker who can also just help the load for Liner just to help with running the game, and have him at nine. With Gordon, I don't think he had a bad game, but it was just like doesn't seem like the combination was working together. So that's where, but like also, I think Schmidt considers him as a leader. I mean, he's captained the Wallabies last year. It seems like Schmidt sees McDermott as a finisher, and I agree with that mostly because Tate, when he starts, he can do. He's almost like a young fuff. He can do something absolutely stupid.
True story, eh?
Yeah, like I mean, even in the Fiji test, that he had that thing where he tried to sort of start an attack with when the game was already at halftime, the hooter went off, ball sort of doesn't hit hand. It's sort of running around. Fiji obviously takes the ball and scores a try from 60 meters. So it's just that game management and that he's a bit too eager sometimes.
But
So
Imagine having him with the Skelton that's a 7 out of 10 and a Valentini. Let's say hypothetically Skelton and Valentini come off the bench and
Yeah.
McDermott's there. Like that already sounds exciting. You know what I mean?
And I think for the Wallabies, they're not, I mean, because of, because I mean, we've talked about this a few times. The Wallabies, especially now, like before, you could say maybe they have 30 players that can play international rugby. And once they sort of get to play at 31, 32, that's when it gets difficult for them. Now it's maybe 26. So if they don't have Valentini and Skelton and Lolosio, that's now when you're playing someone maybe that you shouldn't be playing 80 minutes. Maybe, you know, not to bag on them, but maybe that's when you're like, Jamie Williams, should he be starting? I don't know. Like, those sort of players that you like, a level below what you want. But there was something with that bench mob that came on. They seem to have put in a lot more energy into the game. So this would be my team, Sean, if I was Joe Schmidt, and I would be like, look, we need to sort of put our foot down, and even if that means the bench isn't as strong, it's just meaning, look, we are hitting first before the Wallabies hit us. So I'd start Bell and put Slip on the bench. I'd play Pollard at the start, and then Alatoa. I'd have Frost and Skelton. And basically tell Skelton, you're just playing until the end of the first half. Then you're off. So you do as much as possible in the 40 minutes, kind of like what Rassie usually does with the player come back from injury. Like, we'll even sub you off at 30 minutes. Like, just give as much as you can. And just, I mean, especially for the Irish and the Leinster boys, they obviously have a lot of bad nightmares when Will Skelton plays. So just scaring them. I then go Valentini at 8, Champion de Crespini and McWright. And then basically your bench could then be, I'd maybe go Parecki, but you can either go Parecki or I'm not a big fan of Facer, but you can go Parecki, Slipper, have Taniela Tupou there, and also pretty much tell him, we'll maybe only put you on for 20 minutes. We know your scrumming isn't where it should be. He even had struggles today with the First Nations Pacifica game, but just do what you can do around the field. Um, Maybe even someone like Salakai Lotto, who seemed to play well today as well. Tizano. I'd even go 6-2 for the Wallabies. Not because your forwards are strong, but just so that that impact and that power can stay, because the Lions just blew them away with power. I mean, Tom Curry had 3 dominant hits, and I think the Wallabies altogether had 3. So you need sort of that fire can meet fire type of game plan. So they may be having Tizano and Wilson as the 6 forwards. And then the backs, I think maybe having having um, McDermott and Donaldson coming off the bench works, and then maybe starting White instead of Gordon. But I don't think Schmidt will do that. But I think at least I can't even say if the backline was a problem, because it just started up front and the Lions just cleaned them up comprehensively up front. Like, it didn't seem like they were able to get to Burn and clean him off. Curry basically dominated every hit. Itoja was a menace. McCarthy was carrying well. He obviously has an injury doubt. Genge, I don't know what has happened to Genge. Like, since he's worn red, he's just gone to another level. Like, he's been fantastic at this tour. So it's trying to match that starting team. And then maybe that bench team, yeah, like I said, I think it's because they sort of took a gear down, but it's, you're not facing Sheehan for 80 minutes. You're not facing Genge for 80 minutes. You're probably not facing Burn or Curry for 80 minutes. So that's when you do have an opportunity. So I'd sort of go all guns blazing there, keep it close, and then just hope that those either starting players or your 6-2 can then hold on to try and win a game for them.
Yeah. Oh, The the thing is the players that played today in the First Nations Pacifica were like Salakai Loto and Uru really put their hand up.
Yeah.
Tupou, I'm happy for him not to get another test match, but
Yeah.
he did enough today. Like he actually had a couple of good scrums, but he is vulnerable there. He's like a skeleton who might not deliver. He might give you a 4.5, 5 out of 10, as opposed to always a 6.5 out of 10. Like I don't know where it goes. I'm with you. A 6-2 would be good. It could be good because it's very clear where the Wallabies had a problem. They had a problem maintaining against the forwards. Um, they kind of just sat back and took it, and they had a problem with cohesion. So therefore, you can't change too much, especially in the backs, because the cohesion was a problem there. So you really want everyone to kind of stay together. And then you want to have more forwards so you can tell the guys, listen, whatever you're doing, just condense it into 40 minutes, 45 minutes,
And
go
someone come
hard.
back. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll see. Hopefully, then the Wallabies can figure that out. Just one more thing from the game. We need to talk about that Finn Russell pass. I mean, it was probably almost as good as his pass in that England game. Like yeah, I mean, it was also from like a bit of broken play where it just seemed like, what's happening, this attack is breaking down, and then Russell just delivers the best sort of like floater to below two out wide.
Finn Russell, people are starting to realize that he is really that good. But because of the high profile of the Lions and everything, you can see that he's clearly the best 10. He fronts up defensively. That's what people, I think, always had in their head that he can't tackle. Everyone's got this thing in their head like your 10 doesn't do defensive work if he is a wild child. So, like, there's that. The other thing, he's got unbelievable execution. So he picks it up and early. So he knows early what's going to happen. He's playing 4D chess because he's really worked out a lot of stuff really quickly. But there was a time early in the first half where he was going to pump a little deep ball and then he just held off and put his hand through contact and then popped it. Like it got to the same player just slightly differently. And by doing that, it actually opened it up. And then so that's the kind of decision making. He's got the skills to change those decisions. While it's happening, he can be like, cool, this is not going to work now. So I need to change it up, but I've still got to get the ball to him. And what happened in that Tuipulotu try was it really looked like he was shaping to kick. Like it really looked like he was getting set up to put something in the corner. And then the defense just kind of saw that shot wide. And then he's like, no, no, I've got a little bridge pass going over here because Tuipulotu is in acres of space. Yeah, Finn Russell's probably the best 10 in the world at the moment, I think. Like it's
Yeah,
really hard
definitely.
to look past him
Yeah,
because he can really make stuff out of anywhere. He's got an amazing boot. Not just those beautiful little dinks and chips, but he's also got a 50-22 boots on him. Like he offers so much. The best way to describe it, if you don't understand it, is he's like a Ma Nonu, okay, but just a lot more with a lot more skill set. Where Ma Nonu, if you think he's going to run at you, you front up and you rush up and then he passes. Or if you hold back, then he will kick. Or if you're on your back foot, he'll run over you. Like that's the thing with Russell is you really want to smother him, but then you find, oh, hang on a second, I can't because he's got a little step and he can carry a little bit. Find someone. If I hold back for a kick, he's going to put a softer kick in. Like there's, he's got like 10 options every carry. It
yeah.
feels like it's ridiculous.
No, I mean, this is probably in the sort of short list of like best games he's had, I think, at that level. So yeah, I'm very happy for him, very happy for Cooks that he had that game. I guess the last thing I want to say from the game is Tom Curry absolutely smashed Tom
Wow.
Lyon. Probably could have got a yellow card, to be honest. But I mean, I've seen some clips of like Curry was like clearly sent to get into the head of the youngster. Like there are a few pullbacks, a few sort of late sort of like nudges here and there. So, I mean, look, when Tom Curry like he seems to do this in every big game he plays. Like he's able just to put his like body on the line, have no regard for his own well-being. That's probably why he struggles with concussions all the time. And I was saying to Rian Lowe, I think there's a lot of Skalkberg in Tom Curry.
Yeah, that's the other thing the Wallabies didn't have is they didn't have anyone they could put pressure on. I think there was too much respect there. Like they couldn't rush up on Jones because they were so worried about what Tuipulotu would do, and vice versa. If they wanted to rush on Tuipulotu, they were worried about Jones running off his shoulder. But yeah, the lines were very clear, like, cool, they're 10. If we'll sort the 9 out, but everyone else go for their 10 because then we're fine. And it worked out that way. That that tackle out of the air, I don't think it's a yellow. I was having a chat to someone, they were like, isn't a tackle out there automatic yellow? No, it's the landing that matters. I thought he landed really well, but absolutely smoked him. A little bit of a wry smile. Listen, you'd take a yellow card for that. You would take a penalty for that. If it was us, me individually playing, I would take my medicine for that tackle because all day Lana is going to be keeping a half an eye on some monster running through. Get your get your first tackle in early, even if it's late. Like that's the kind of mentality. And it was because it makes people wonder. Like
Yeah.
you can beat that, but if it gets in your head, you're always thinking about it and job done.
As a former flank, I approve of this message. Um,
As an old guy who played against 18-year-olds in the third team for Marty's, that was the only thing I had. Like, if you got to get a good hard tackle in early and you just tell them it's going to be like that all day. And if you get them early in the season, they worry about you, and then then you can kind of manage it. If it's later on in the season, they've experienced it a little bit, they just pull it back and run around you, and it's 80 points.
yeah. Sean, let's change gears. Let's talk about the Springboks. The Springboks winning their match against Georgia after falling behind actually early on, which was a bit of a surprise. A good rolling maul there from Georgia, but they won 55 points to 10. Yeah, I mean, I think really good performance. The Boks did really well. I heard from the Aotearoa rugby pod that Boks had 15% of their tackles be dominant tackles, which is absolutely ridiculous. Like that's just an insane stat. And it also meant that Georgia I think they only had 20% of their ball was quick ball. So their rucks were less than 3 seconds. So, you're pretty much playing in mud while the Boks are playing on a treadmill. But yeah, let's talk about it from a wider perspective is, okay, what does Rassie take away from this July series? Are there players that he's like, okay, we need to actually see more of you? Are there things that he wants to see more of? Like, what are the lessons for Rassie and the Boks?
Oof. So firstly, don't think anyone I don't think anyone really was so terrible that you don't ever want to see them again.
Yeah,
Um,
fair enough.
so there's that. The other thing is Russie's taking this let's build depth thing to another level. But he's also going back to that 2018, 2019 philosophy that made us all fall in love with the Springboks again was that every single player that performs can get into the Springbok squad. Like you can see visibly players are different when they play that they know they're in with a chance. There are lots of conversations happening, and guys, they get their nod. Um, Starting a whole brand new front row is wild. And I flippin' loved it. And I'm just so happy that Netin Fouché got his Springbok cap. Like, I don't care about anybody else. It was just so amazing. Like, it's selfish, but I mean, like to think of what I thought of the roller coaster he's had where I thought he missed it. Like, imagine him as an individual doing so well, missing out on that chance before the World Cup. And we figured that 2022 was the last chance that he would get, and or the beginning of 2023, I think it was. And we were like, if it doesn't happen now, it'll never happen. He was in the squad, never happened. It didn't happen, but now, yeah, it's done. And then he's crying during the anthems properly, and I started crying. It was his fault. It's cutting onions. Like it was an emotional time. The thing is that I think a lot of people also realize that he's been there and thereabouts as well. It's not like he's a guy that's dominated and didn't get a look in. Like he's done well. He dropped off. He's done well, but you kind of know, he's probably running out of time. So with props, it's different. Um, I digress. There's a lot happening. We have three options, four options at 10. We have three, four midfielders that could start, two and a half, 3.5, should I say? Like we've got about 700 wings. We've got 3 or 4 fullbacks. We've got 1,000 loose forwards. Um, like we've got locks. We've got a pack. We've got locks that can play flank, and we've got flanks that can play lock. Like we're in a very interesting space. We're trying different new things, but the rugby championship is coming up. I think our focus is very clear to dominate that. I have a funny feeling, but it's never the case. But I have a funny feeling we want to go unbeaten in the rugby championship, and we need to beat Ireland and France and the rest of the games we can test.
Yeah, actually, yeah, that's going to be interesting to see what the plan is. I was thinking more that the rugby championship is secondary to basically the Auckland game and just winning that, and maybe going 2-0 in New Zealand would obviously
Send
be
Oaks,
historic.
send guys up to New Zealand on Monday. They're going to spend a whole month there, and then you can play.
So yeah, I wouldn't be too surprised. I think that's not out of the realm of possibility. I think you probably could get away with the second team against the Wallabies anyway, especially they pretty much finished that last test and they have to fly to Joburg after that. Um, yeah, I don't think there's too much that we didn't know before, but I think you're right, Sean. No one played themselves out of the box, which is at least a good sign. Like everyone's gonna get at least an invite back. Like it's those evening events that you go with, maybe with like your partner, and you're like, okay, we made a good impression with this couple. We're gonna get another coffee date like late in the month. So everyone's gonna get at least a coffee date invite back. I guess it's still, I mean, the same maybe issues we had in like hooker. We still need to see if Marnus van der Merwe, like if he's at the next level. Um, I think the Lucid props did pretty well. Like Vessels and Juan Fenter, like they took the opportunities quite well. Even the tight heads, I think they were really good. I think Nokia has put himself into like the main squad conversation as much as possible. Like, but you say that, but Luot has also been great. Mostad's also been great. Like, there's just crazy depth at lock. Lucy's
You
on
can you
Lucy.
can play them all as well. That's what frustrates everybody is you could play all those players you mentioned, you could start them in a Springbok side and we'd be fine.
And
Like
you'd be fine.
that's crazy.
Yeah. I think Chatuka's probably the find of the Lucy's, of like the newer Lucy's that just put themselves into that conversation. But then Peter Steph comes back and he's like, look, everyone else is playing for second here. Um,
And I can't believe I'm saying this, but it's for all you haters out there. You can see the value of Sia Khaleesi as well. He
yeah,
made more dominant tackles than anyone. Our rucks were better because he was on the field. Like, it's ridiculous.
yeah. I was just
It's
worried that he came off so early. I was just like, did he
oh,
just get seriously injured or something?
2 minutes. I was like, please don't be like that.
Yeah,
Because, yeah. But then, because every like when he was injured, and then what's his face? Escom had a
yeah,
really good couple tests, and then those idiots come out the woodwork. You're like, Sia Khaleesi is not going to be able to make the side again. And you're like, are you joking with me? And in the same breath, they're like, oh, our rucks are a problem. Well, it's Sia Khaleesi that really like does so well, but just balances out those rucks. But then he just dominates with the hits. Oh, so good.
So yeah, I mean, it seems like most positions, option one is probably world class or close to world class in most of the positions. Option two is very good, if not also like top four, top five in their position in the world. And then option three is, hey man, if he's the only option three in the team, we'll still be fine against most opposition. Like if you need to play a test with, Morne van der Berg now at 9, and the rest of the team is basically first choice, you're like, not ideal, but you can do it. If Juan Fenta has to play against the All Blacks later, you're like, okay, that's fine. Like we can work around this. Like if Chatuka has to play Argentina away, that's also good. Like, so it's obviously just an insane level of depth that the Boks have. Like it's obviously reminiscent of what the All Blacks did in the 2010s. It's now just about, you know, and you're almost in a place now where you're like, okay, are these like 2019, 2023 veteran Boks, can they make it to 2027? Like, I think that's going to be where it gets really fun for Rassie and for the Boks, and possibly where maybe, like, I guess for opponents think that's a possible chink in the armor is how do you time that? And that's obviously the thing that probably tripped up, Peter de Villiers back then or Heineken Meyer is, okay, how far do I take a player that's now in his mid-30s? He has the experience, he's world class, he can get there, but there's new younger players, or maybe the form isn't there, maybe the injuries aren't there. So, I mean, it's a good place to be in. And I think even for this year, like it is feasible for the Boks to win those four big tests away. But yeah, it's just a thing of, how much is left in the tanks of the Etzebets and the Colisis and the Pollards and those players. And there's no real way of knowing it because some of these players, like some players just go on and on and on and on and play until they're 43, like Maananu. And some of these players, it's just like 1 week they're good, the next week they seem to have forgotten how to play right. So that's going to be interesting to see how that happens. But at least Rassie can't say, look, in most positions, you can't say that he doesn't have the depth. There are players that seem to be ready and willing to step in. They might not be as good as Peter Steph, they might not be as good as, Dame Lendi, but they can still do a job.
Yeah. What's very interesting, and I don't know how I'm going to explain this, but it's working in my head, so just bear with me, is the Springboks have such an amazing environment. So they would definitely be in right up there with like one of the best places to work. Like if you talk about rugby being work, I think that's there. The thing is that they're in that space because nobody is there permanently for free because everyone can be replaced. That is the one thing I really believe that everyone knows that they literally need to give their most and they want to give their most because that environment is so amazing. But then there are youngsters that all they want to do is be in that environment. Then they get a taste of it, they get a roadmap, and then they work really hard. And Rassie's like, I see you, big guy, come back. And then all of a sudden, like they're putting pressure. So there's this constant, like, iron sharpens iron vibe. But if you watch Chasing the Sun 2, Dwayne, he was literally in tears. Like you could hear the emotion when he was just like, Rassie, I will do anything. I want to go to the World Cup. Like, if I don't go, I understand. But what can I do to go? Like that is my only goal is to go there and be the best and stay within this group. Like guys don't want to not be in this group anymore because everything is so amazing. Like the guys are like superheroes. And that's what's happening. Like, and it's the net is just getting wider and wider. And it's amazing that we've got so many people, like it's all going well now and everyone's happy, but it's really hard to get a group of 40, 50 people together that honestly come from completely different parts of the universe in terms of growing up and life journeys and everything. And we're all working together. There's a good vibe. There's a love for everyone. There's an understanding of everybody's like pressures and everything. It's amazing. It's really, really amazing.
Yeah. And yeah, I guess that's when that culture helps with, if someone feels like the drainage from Munich exam is actually perfect. So when an Itzebeth or Peter Steph is now in that Dwayne position of, I don't think I can hold off a Jasper Visa back anymore. And maybe my role is going to be changed or limited. Like, am I able to sort of hand over and understand, okay, I'm now a finisher or I play maybe these games and not those games. So yeah, that's I guess when like a team is able to transition well, is that culture's good, that a senior or a star player can sort of step back and take that senior role and to then sort of give over to the new players. And I mean that's the nice thing about these next 2 years is there's no real pressure. Rassie can pretty much take however many players he wants to take on tour, I guess, budget depending. And you can give caps to 30, 40, 50 players. It's now just about, and obviously some players will get a taste in like these bigger marquee games against New Zealand or France, whatever the case is. But then it's all about, okay, hopefully by 2027, you know where you stand. And I think the Bucks have been quite good with transparency of just being like, look, you're third, you're second, you're whatever in the list. So yeah, that's I think the interesting thing to monitor there. In terms of, I guess, the performances, I mean, Grant Williams just on insane form. I think that's the one player that's really stood out the last 2 weeks. Yeah, I mean, we talked about this last week. He needs to play as many minutes as possible. I guess the other thing, I guess that's somewhat of a story is it hasn't been the best July for Sacha Feinberg-Mngomezulu. Like, obviously, his goal kicking wasn't great. I don't think he had the best performances in the 2 games he started. Mani Labok has now sort of sorted out his issues. It seemed like they've sort of done a body swap since last year.
Very interesting. And going back to what I was saying about like the environment and how amazing it is, the best part about anyone not having a good time is they know that the group of people in the Springbok squad have got their back. So, when you go through tough times, you can come out on the other side in a good space. Um, Sasha's form doesn't bother me too much. Like, let's be honest.
Yeah.
Everyone was like, he must start every game. He's going to captain us in the next World Cup, and that's that. Like, everyone's gone like the whole hog. Like, forget Andre Pollard, forget Sirkulisi, forget everybody. Like, and that's a bit much. Um, However, I'm all for him playing as much as possible to, strike while the iron's hot. So yeah, so Sasha, and the best part is he's learning a lot, and he's learning a lot 2 years out from a World Cup because I think I'm with everyone when I say like if you had to pick now, Sasha would go to the World Cup. So we're happy to have him in the squad. So let him learn. The nice thing is he can learn. He can have a bad game. He can manage himself with however he wants to do or whatever's going on. But we've got the luxury of having Andre Pollard. We've got the luxury of having, so, like Mani there. We've got Delendi, Esthuizen, Willemse that can play 12 as well. We've got two, three other guys playing 15. So there's space for Sasha because he's got options to play in different positions. But yeah, it's okay. I'm not fazed by it. Like Sasha's also like young, so you probably find like the Wallabies and the All Blacks are going to be the sides that he's going to play well in because sometimes you're a youngster, you go through the motions, you think you're really really good, and uh, and you up your game for the All Blacks.
Yeah, I guess so. Like, there isn't really, it's not something really to be concerned about. There's very few things that you can say from this last few weeks that seems like a major concern. Obviously, now that it's the Boks sort of gets the short end of the stick during this line series that they didn't have, France coming here or wherever. So it's sort of the space that gives you to test a few things. We were hoping to see what the Springbok squad is. It doesn't seem like it'll come out before we finish this podcast, so we'll have to move now to the next. Sean, let's talk about the Baby Boks. They've just won the under 20 Junior World Cup. They beat the Baby Blacks. It's the first win since 2012. Yeah, I mean, I was only able to watch the highlights, so I don't have really too many deep thoughts about it. But I mean, first of all, big congratulations to Kevin Foot. I mean, it almost felt like a crisis about how bad the junior box was a year or two ago. But I think the main thing I take away from this is okay, who's going to be, you know, good internet, maybe like good professional, but also international players. And it seems like with Kikani and with Hashim Pete, those are the two ones you can start with as players that will probably be playing like serious rugby for their franchises next season. Like Pete seems like he's going to be on the bench for the Lions next season. Kikani seems like he'll be in the mix for the Sharks quite soon.
Yeah, that final was interesting. So I really didn't think we played well. It was the first time that we didn't really kick on and dominate like we have done in all the previous games. But it's we couldn't shake it. So I think I think the All Blacks, the Baby Blacks had the better game plan to face us. I think we had the better players to push on because we were attacking really narrow and they were just cooking us. And when they were attacking us, they were attacking wide early and they kept getting around the corner and or beating us on the edge rather. it was quite interesting, and it was just something that we couldn't shake, and we couldn't like we didn't seem to know how to beat it. Um, but we had the better players, and we there were some moments that we won, big moments. Obviously, they had a 20-minute red card. There was a lot happening, but we pulled through. It was tight. It was tight until shit. I can't remember the time that we scored that last try that sealed it, but it was in the 70 something minutes, like
Yeah.
it could have gone either way. The Baby Blacks were definite underdogs, but they definitely had a game plan that was good enough to win on the day.
Yeah. Look, yeah, I mean, you'll take that. That's like you're able to, and like the baby box journey was, they had to go through England, they had to go through Argentina to get there, and they've been really well tested. So it's good for something since there's been a Southern Hemisphere champion for this. And it was like a France Island meeting at the top. So that's at least one positive there as well. Yeah, I mean, seems like whatever Kim Foot was doing is working well. So the also another sort of mark restructure that happened last year, like women's box team leaves. There's Kevin Foot there with the baby box. So yeah, things are happening there. Um, yeah, I mean, the next thing is now how much not international rugby, sorry, but like professional rugby get into these players because there's that's the next step is hopefully these players aren't waiting 2-3 years and on to the URC or even in the Curry Cup. And like you're saying earlier, Shaun, there should be some opportunities for them to get at least some Curry Cup minutes now.
Yeah, like I hate it because we're so used to the next big thing coming up. Like I do feel that as in general, we don't really look after our talent enough because we kind of don't have to because there's always going to be someone else. So we kind of figure out, listen, as opposed to Ireland, where Ireland will pick out guys and then they will just work with them solidly because they just don't have the numbers. Um, so yeah, I just hope that because of that, we can now elevate these guys up because there are a lot of players in the squad that have shown that they are good enough to take that step up. Like they're good enough to work with and push on further. So hopefully we'll do it. I just want to see more of Flakani. I love him. Do you know where Moyo is? Do you know where he's contracted?
I'm not sure, to be honest. I mean, I think I mean, I'm not a big follower of junior rugby, but I think, acquitted himself very well there in that fly half.
Yeah, he's quite handy. I'm just Googling now quickly to find out where he is. Um he's a big kid, man. He's at the Sharks, it seems. Oh
Oh,
wow. Well, he was. I don't know if he's left or not, but
hmm.
he's handy. He's a massive kid. Like he's big enough that he could play 12 if you need. Like if you want to start shifting guys around to give him some minutes or whatever, or vice versa. Um, but I've been quite impressed with him. The biggest thing, and I think that is the rugby championship being played before the under 20 championship is big for us. We've
Yeah,
constantly gone into the under 20 championship undercooked. We've wallabied ourselves the way into all these big tournaments and really kicked on too late, where we haven't had chance to work with a connected team. But that's changed now. So the only problem is as South Africans, if ever there's a word rugby championship, they were like, we must go on and win it. So now we need to get used to maybe not winning the rugby championship because I know we want to badly all the
yeah.
time.
I guess yeah, it's fine if you win the the World Cup at the end. Like that's then not a problem. But yeah, like shout out to them. I mean, it seems like the structures are there and they are putting out the right players. So then let's hope that continues. Yeah, not good news is what Wales did at the end of their Junior World Cup. And yeah, stories from Italy about them sort of trashing places and interrupting a pride parade and like trashing their hotel. So yeah, that's just another thing to add to the list there for Wales at the moment.
Oh shit, I didn't even know that. And now
Yeah.
they've just gone in. Well, they've Steve Tandy's been named as their head coach. They've signed him
It
till
lit
for 5 years, I think.
it seems like it literally came out 2 or 3 hours after the story came out in Italian press about the under 20s. So I don't know if they're trying to bury that news, but yeah.
If you ignore it, it'll go away, bro.
Yeah, I mean that seems to be well strategy for most things. I don't know if that works for them.
No, it
Um,
shouldn't.
yeah, so please, yeah, don't do anything. I mean, I think the Boks are home, so at least they can't really embarrass us away from home. Um, I think then just to go, I mean, yeah, the Steve Tandy news, just to yeah, like he's the coach. I don't mind him actually, Sean. I mean, like he's been a defensive coach for Scotland. He was a coach for Ospreys, I think, for a few years in the 2010s, and he did decently well actually. I think I judging on him as a defensive coach for Scotland, I think he's good at lifting your floor. Maybe not putting your ceiling up and like making you like one of the best in the world, but at least making you good and competitive and sort of in that midfield there in the Six Nations. And I think that's obviously exactly what Wales needs right now.
Yeah, so I just want to correct myself and apologize, but I said Byron McGuigan was their defensive coach. He's actually at the England setup at the moment for this tour to Argentina and USA. But because he played for Scotland and Scotland Sevens, I just figured he was there. Having said that, Byron McGuigan would be a great addition to the Scotland team now that they're looking for a defensive coach. But yeah. Listen, I think Tandy's a good shout, and I'm very intrigued by this. Um, we kind of figured they were going to go for a high-profile, big-name
Yeah,
coach. Um, so I'm very interested to see how this goes. Like, I just hope they're not kind of have got someone that has said yes to all of their demands, and then they get to kind of push him around, and then when they discard him, they use him as a scapegoat. That's kind of the cynic in me sees that happening if Wales don't turn, um, or he does turn them and does really really well, and then they're shit and he leaves anyway because he was never given a full opportunity. So, but yeah, I hope he does well. Listen, we all want Wales to do better. The Lions team needs more Welsh players. Bottom line.
indeed. Sean, let's go. I think one of the last things we'll talk about is the All Blacks will, finishing their series against France. They win the series 3-0. They win 29-19 after being behind for big majority of the game, actually. Um, New Zealand changed a lot of players, and they even had some injuries before the game as well. So this was like pretty much second team versus second team for France as well. So obviously good that they won. It's still, yeah, we still have that little like part of us that are a bit unsure about the All Blacks right now. Doesn't seem like they are everything's together really well. But there are things that you're like, okay, they can just build on that. They can build on their scrum. If they can, get Holland into their team, if they can do this and that, then things are coming together. But it hasn't really come together as a package yet, even in this game.
Yeah, I don't know how to feel about the All Blacks. Like, I'm we listen. I'm old enough that I've been burnt so many times by them. Like it's really difficult to badmouth them because we've got to play them twice still. We can do that afterwards, and then we'll probably find ahead of November we'll be all having a go at them. But they've it was a shit good tour. There's some positives that have come out of it, but I think they're probably a little bit like few too many questions or a few too many queries or a few too many gray areas. Probably don't want that, especially going into the Rugby Championship. And they've got Argentina away twice to start things off,
Mm,
which is hard. Like it's difficult to go to Argentina and try and build for your two home games against the Springboks, which is really everyone's focus between South Africa and New Zealand right now. Like that's everyone's focus. So yeah, there's interesting things coming of it. Yeah, I don't know. I feel a bit weird. I'd probably rate this three test match series for Razor. I'd probably rate it a 5 out of 10. Like
Mm.
if they'd lost one, it would be 4 out of 10. Like they got the result, but they kind of there's got the result and it was a bit meh. Like it's a bit weird. You kind of it's not like he's picking players and you're like, why have you picked that player when you have player X over here? That's not the case. Like they've gone and played like this with pretty much their first choice guys and a couple of add-on sprinkles here and there. Their depth is a bit of a worry.
Yeah, it's not where it was 10 years ago. It's definitely, yeah, they don't have the three levels of depth that they used to. They maybe have two, some places one and a half that they're sort of holding on to. I guess the positives are Fabian Holland is test level and he's going to be a test All Black for a long time. He was really good in this tour. He's great in this game and this weekend. The scrum and the forwards just look really good, and they have a really good like level of depth in their props, especially. So Tamati Williams didn't even play this series. Terrell Lomax didn't play until the third test. They had the Chiefs props that played pretty well. I think they sorted and they tied five. Brody McAllister didn't really play maybe as good as you'd want him to in terms of the lineout, but he got the winning try. The loose forwards, still some questions, I guess. Samapeni Finau, I think, had probably one of his better games at six, but yeah, you have Odi at eight. You still probably wants the TT and Lakai to come back as soon as possible. The backs, I think, were fine mostly. Like the first choice backs, I think, are fine. And we're still talking about maybe the Proctor versus Leonard Brown at 13. Geordie Barrett's been fantastic, even if he had to play the second rate URC, according to Stephen Donald. Um, they don't have the 40 million wings that they used to have anymore. It seems like the wing stocks are getting smaller and smaller. I think Ruben Love wasn't too bad at fullback. Yeah, so I mean, Ratimer maybe is the one player that I think his stocks has fallen. I think from these three tests, it seems like now Botha might be the one that sort of moves into being Roy God's understudy. So yeah, like I think in general, you look at it a bit wider. You're like, okay, I guess it's fine, but yeah, Sean, it's only in that second test where it felt like in that first half, especially where it felt like okay, they are really a serious side again. The other times it was just like, I think they keep possession too much. I think that's almost their main problem. They carry too much, they try to pass too much, and that's what gets them into trouble. As opposed to what they did in the second test. I think they need to play all their games in the rain. Then they play the territory game. They play in the right places. They use their set piece and their forwards to set the platform, and then they know they have the talent to beat opponents one on one. They can sort of get sucked into trying to play with the ball too much, and then they're getting themselves into trouble.
The All Blacks, the only thing that they can take out of this is that if they're going to be competitive, they have to play all three Barretts in the starting lineup. Simple. Like they just have to do it. The guys offer too much. Geordie Barrett's ridiculous. Like I love it when you watch a game, any game, and they're professionals, and then another professional comes on and makes them all look like amateurs. That's what Geordie Barrett is at the moment. Like he's that good. He's cooking.
Yeah. For France, I mean, I think they still wanted to win one test, but all in all, I think this was a pretty positive tour for them. Um, these July tours are basically just used to see what is underneath that sort of second string. And we've seen before Galtier using some of these players and promoting them into the first team. I think this has been a big tour for Giard at eight. It seems like that's going to be a legit option. I think Fisher was great in the loose forwards. I think De Bortel looked nice. Attisogbe is probably the one that I think has done the most for himself. I think he's now knocking at the door of Damien Pinot and just being like, one slip or one time you say something about Jalibert, you're going to be out of the squad, buddy.
Exactly. It's interesting. At Sogbe, like I think he probably is better at 15. I did a little bit of reading up on him. He actually played at 10 for a while, growing up.
You
He
can
can
see
play,
it, yeah.
yeah, he can play 10, 12, 13, and 15, and obviously at wing. So the thing is I know Barre didn't have the best game, but he's definitely the better of the 15s coming up. But you're going to have Attisogbe and Barre in your French setup for many years to come. You're not going to do bad. The big winners for me, I think, Gabin Villiers, he proved yet again. He's like a Marcus Smith. Like he always has, you know that he's good, but then you don't see him, and then you kind of doubt him because he's a small guy. Like that's basically what it is. Then he comes on and plays, and you're like, oh, yes, no, he is good enough. You can still play him. Like he's great. Like he works so hard. The amount of work he does off the ball is crazy. And the other one is Joshua Brennan. He can play lock, he can play flank. Obviously, Brennan, a massive Irish name for the Irish team because his dad played for Ireland. But my word, like 300 tackles, I'm lying, about 25 tackles on the day, I think.
26.
Yeah, crazy, man. He very quietly got into Test match rugby and just, took to it like a duck to water.
Yeah. 26 for Brennan, 24 tackles for Geard with 2 turnovers. Fisher had
That's 50
21.
tackles between two players.
Fisher had 21, so that's 71 tackles amongst 3 players. And then you had Fiku, who had 20, and that's 91 tackles amongst 4 players. Like, yeah, they were just, I mean, they had to defend a lot. They were making, I think, they made over 200 tackles. Let me just double check. They made 270 tackles out of 292. So your tackle accuracy is still 92% in a game like that, which is ridiculous. So, yeah, I mean, I don't think that's how France wants to play most of their games, but they really showed. Like, yeah, happily can say to all those people that are saying that they're disrespecting Test rugby, seemed like the All Blacks had a hard time beating them. So clearly,
It's
Test rugby is still fine.
disrespectful. Disrespectful. You cannot say that a team disrespects you and then you don't go and humble them. Sorry.
Yeah.
Like then you are just blowing smoke up your own ass.
So yeah, Justin Marshall, John Cohen, Jeff Wilson, you have a lot to answer for. But yeah, I mean, that's the scary thing about France. Their second team can actually do a job and come close to beating New Zealand and New Zealand. So yeah, that's a nice big warning to everyone. Yeah, we'll see. Obviously, the big boys will all come back in November and face the Springboks. So we'll hold on for that. The last thing, Sean, before we wrap up, is a big match in terms of rugby World Cup qualification, and that was the Rugby Africa Championship or Rugby Africa Cup final happened, and Zimbabwe beat Namibia, and that's now the first time Zimbabwe qualifies for the World Cup since 1991. It's the first time Namibia doesn't qualify, I think, since 2003 as well. And I mean, Zim has been building quite well. I think we actually know quite a few of like the people that have been in their coaching staff. They got Ian Pryor back from Australian rugby. They have obviously a few of the players that play in our local domestic leagues as well. Yeah, big moment for Zimbabwe. Big congratulations to them. They've punched their tickets for Australia 2027.
Massive. The good news for Namibia is they actually do go into a final tournament where they can still qualify. But let's talk about Zimbabwe. So yeah, from a Cape Town point of view, the coaching staff are very much like a False Bay UCT kind of a group that
Yeah.
played stroke coach there, so heavily involved in the club rugby scene. Peter Bernardo, the head coach, played at Bay, but he also played at Hammies. He's from Zim. Yeah, just so from a Western Cape club rugby point of view, Super League A, Super League B kind of setup. Quite a lot of sort of names and faces that people are familiar with. So unbelievable. 13 games unbeaten, I think. But
Yeah.
to go and beat Namibia, and they were behind as well. I think it was at the same time as the Springbok game. I just know that I couldn't watch
Yeah.
the game. So I was kind of following on socials, and I asked Francisco to send me a message and let me know what's happening. And I saw he mentioned that he thinks Namibia will go on to win it. And I figured that Zimbabwe had lost their lead, only to find out that they went on to win it by 2 points. I think the final points they scored or try was like in the last few minutes. So massive, massive results. A lot of like just a lot of change there, a lot of positive vibes coming out of Zim rugby. And let's be honest, like for our second side, they're going to have a most kick-ass kit for the World Cup.
That's the big point, actually, that they're gonna have the most stylish kits. Yeah, that
Oh, it's gonna
those
be
those white and
killer.
green hoops are really nice. Like I don't know, they give like a nice fancy Cape Town school vibes. Actually, just continue on the Cape Town theme. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I mean, yeah, there's in terms of like the likes of like Mavasari and those sort of players, they're gonna have a nice big platform now to play. In the highest level as well. Yeah, I mean, it'd be great if we can also have. I mean, it might not be competitive, but like a South versus Zimbabwe game, I don't think has happened in years. And they're the two teams I think with the longest winning streaks in men's rugby at the moment, if I'm not mistaken.
Wow, I did not know that, but bring it on.
Yeah, I think we need to sort this out. Who's the real kings of Africa?
There we
Um,
go.
yeah, like you said, Sean, the Namibians are on the repechage tournament. I think the other teams in it so far are Belgium and the UAE, and then I think one more team is going to come through from the Pacific Islands or Oceania. So they have a decent chance. It's not like the strongest teams in the world. Obviously, there's been a lot of like mess with Namibian rugby the last few years. They lost their coach literally just before that Italian game. So yeah, hopefully they can, and they didn't have all their best players. So hopefully they can get their best players for that tournament because it'd be great to have. I don't think we've ever had a World Cup with three African teams, so this would be a first.
That's exactly what I was thinking because I thought that was done and dusted, and then I saw there was a reply that Namibia have a chance. But if we can have ourselves and basically our two neighbors playing in a World Cup, that'd be pretty sick.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that has sorted out. I mean, I don't think we mentioned at the time, but Hong Kong has also qualified. They won the Asian equivalent of this as well. They also seem to have a lot of nice players and some players that they could sort of get for if they with the residence rules as well. So yeah, the picture starting to form there for what's happening in the 2027 Rugby World Cup. Sean, I think that's basically everything. Yeah. I mean, we talked about the women's box game earlier, but yeah, if you are in Cape Town, go to that game. I think you'll probably see sort of the best of the best in terms of women's international rugby with the Black Ferns. Like Portia Woodman Wycliffe will probably continue her run into breaking the or into continue to break the Doug Howlett record as well. Like see some really great players, and yes, the women's box team might not be at the same level, but I think they'll give them a decent fight as we see with the Canada game. Like the forwards are there, there's some talent in the backs. Yeah, it's not. I don't think it's going to be a complete whitewash.
Whatever happens, I get the distinct feeling that these games are all about the Springboks preparing to go to the quarterfinal. That's the feeling I get, as opposed to let's play Canada twice and New Zealand twice because they are the big dogs, and then we can go to the World Cup. It feels very much like these are stepping stones for us to have our best World Cup ever.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that's something to look forward to. The Curry Cup is starting, but yeah, obviously the British and Irish Lions are happening on Saturday. We didn't really talk about the First Nations game, but yeah, it looked like it was a nice tight game. Yeah, I think we mentioned like some of the players that sort of impressed from the First Nations Pacifica team. So yeah, that's at least something to look forward to. Yeah,
The
at
First
least that will.
Nations game was basically the Lions played how we expected them to play by having six players parachuted into the team. That's basically.
Yeah. So yeah, we've luckily because of what electricity you say from a cook's rant about this game and them playing it on a Tuesday and everything as well.
Just weird, man.
Okay, I think let's end it there. So thank you so much for listening to this Rugby Bits podcast. Please follow us on our social media accounts. Please follow us on our podcast platforms on Spotify, and you can watch us and our pretty faces on YouTube. Like, share, and subscribe, and share this podcast with everyone else. And we will see you again. Yeah, we'll see. Maybe later this week to talk about the Lions. If not, we'll see you next week after the weekend's game. So bye bye.
Bye.